Cool. So let's start from the top. In your section, can you talk about some of the items that you've got here?
Yeah. So this is the first time, right, that we are having this meeting. We're gonna
Yeah.
go over the research updates and needs for package release and verify. And my first agenda item here is designer needs and research support. So I'll start with the package team. So Erica is not here right now, but for package, we are still facing some challenges in recruiting the right participants for the dependency proxy research. I discussed with Katie yesterday, the day before, and although Erica and I think Caitlin, they have been super helpful, and then they have been sending participants towards Katie and Tim, they still feel like that these are not the right people. And I think they have been almost 100% from the respondent. And Katie asked me about GitLab. My God, first look.
Yeah.
First look, right? How do you get access to that, right? That bucket of users, how to access those, what is the process, what does she need to do? So that's a point I'm going to add here for Erica to check that with Katie and to see if we can have a better, not a better approach, but look into those participants again, because I think this research in particular has been going on for a couple of weeks now. But then as a side question, Will, maybe you have some experience that you can share with me on recruiting participants or using First Look.
Sure.
Yeah, so also help.
So when it comes to First Look, our research coordinator, Caitlin, she manages that for the most part. So whenever I'm recruiting for a study and I know that I want to use First Look participants, or even if I'm not unsure about it, I can ping her within the recruiting issue with any questions. And she specifically has access to that panel. I think it's like it's either in our SciSense database or somewhere else potentially, but she has full knowledge of it, and she can like pull based on specific questions that we ask. We like put through people through a screener when they say that they're interested. So we have some information, but then if we want to do like a new study, there may be a different set of questions that we have to ask. So every study essentially needs a screener that's specific to that study. I know that Erica, has put together an idea around a common screener to kind of cut down on the use of, like one type of screener per study. But, Caitlin can send the screener out to First Look participants, and then we monitor it in Qualtrics and send it out from there.
Okay, that's good information because I haven't used First Look in so long, and before I remember that we did have some level of access to those participants. And the way I understand now is that Caitlin's the one, managing and going to that database and sending the screener to these people, right? So we have to go through that process and ask for her support.
Yeah, I mean, that's the process that I've gone through. I'm going to try to look in the handbook to see if there's something more specific.
Yeah, because I couldn't find information about access to First Look, but that's fine. I know the information is out there, but I just wanted to confirm because I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, and we have a page on our GitLab.com website that has some like basic information. It's more, steered towards participants, but there is like some Q&A towards the bottom that explains some of that. So I can add that to the doc.
Okay, that'll be helpful. Hey, Erica, in the doc, I wonder where, let's see. Okay. All right, cool. This will, I have a look here. I couldn't find like, okay, this is how we get access to it. It wasn't also in the stack. So what I assume from that is that we cannot request access to first look. And I understand because there's participants data there, sensitive information that not everyone should be managing or should be, just looking into.
Yeah, and that's a good overall question. I'm gonna type this in here, but like we have a UX research meeting today with Caitlin and all the other researchers and Adam. So I can add that to like our agenda to try to figure out like, is there a formal process outside of just contacting Caitlin?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Especially that for dependency proxy, I know that Katie has already talked to a number of participants and she has been facing this challenge for a while now, right? Yes, we get to the participant, send out a screener, but then when she got to the interview, there was even someone that she said that they didn't speak English at all. So and there are some people that don't actually have experience with GitLab or with the type of tooling. So it's yeah, it's one of the things that on the side that we also want to have a look into, but also helping her find the right people for this this study. I think that's I would say that's one of the priorities now, since the study has already been going on for a while. So if you can raise that and ask for Caitlin to have a look, it will be great. I also asked Katie to reach out in the research channel in Slack, ask the same questions I ask here, right? So how do I get access to first look? I had this challenge with the participant, etc., but trying to over communicate here. It's always better.
Makes sense. Okay. Do you want to talk about the deep dive for the release stage group?
So this is mostly a heads up. I'm not sure if you've seen in Slack or conversations happening. We had a call yesterday, Jackie, Daniel, Chris, and we went through the, let's say, historical context of a release or some of the categories that Daniel and Chris are working with, because that conversation that we had asynchronously of the team not having full visibility into the existing insights and then reopening questions or talking about validation of things that we already validated in the past, right, or in the last year or so. So we had this call, this is the recordings here, where we talk about the business side of these capabilities, why they came to be the way they did, and then it's mainly around release orchestration. We talk a little bit about environment, we talk about deployment, and also my goodness, it's I really need coffee sometimes in the morning. We also talk about some of the design decisions, for example, for release. A lot of the work that we did in the last 2 years were around making sure that the release manager persona, that is a persona that can be technical or non-technical, depending on the company, right? Or is someone that is responsible for managing releases in the org, that they can do what they need through the API, but also through the UI. And a part of the conversation was around why in the insights and why in the research and in the design decisions and the product decisions that we made, the flow seemed incomplete in terms of managing environments, managing deployments, managing releases. It's because, well, this persona is technical, but it's also non-technical, right? So we had to kind of manage expectations there and deliver on both ends. So I think it was a 45 minutes discussion. There's also a doc I'm going to link here. I think it'll be useful for you to kind of scan, maybe have a look, because it really provides more insight into, yeah, why we didn't build, for example, why we didn't build an environment dashboard, or why we didn't redesign it, or why, there is a bunch of incomplete stuff, and how that influences the direction for release today. So, messy summary, but it's about strategy, the research, and the design. It was a very productive conversation. So, just thought you should know that this happened.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I had heard some of that happen in one of the issues. There was some talk about that meeting coming together. But good to know that that happened and there's a recording of it. So yeah, I can go back and watch it and skim through the doc, because that will be like pretty interesting for me to have that historical context.
Awesome. And if you have also any questions, I linked here the issue. I think Jackie created this issue where, I don't know, Chris, but it's just like async agenda. But if there are also other questions, I think it would be worth documenting those in GitLab, so we can find the answers later on.
Okay.
And my last update, heads up, is that a focus area for all product designers, all my direct report, in terms of growth and development, is research, right? So we identified that as part of the skills matrix exercise that we did, I think in October last year, but also through the performance assessment. So next month, I'm going to be facilitating these conversations with my team and making recommendations for the growth and development plan, right? Or the things that they should be working on, or they want to be working on, and opportunities within GitLab. And in terms of research, it was really around qualitative versus quantitative research, right? So we generally, like the product designers in my teams, they don't really do a lot of quantitative research. I think there's an opportunity there to maybe understand how to apply or learn those skills within GitLab. But I also want to understand, I think I'm still formulating these ideas, but I think I also want to understand from you and Erica, once I have a draft of this plan, how can you help, right? And based on the upcoming research or the current efforts that you're working on, how to, I would say, intentionally focus on some of these areas with specific product designers. So we have people that are more seniors that have experience with research. We have intermediate, junior product designers. So it's, I think that we need to, I think I need to do some leveling there, but I want to discuss this with you and Erica to understand how can you help, right? And make sure that you're being strategic in that sense. So this is also a heads up. I'll formalize that, and I create issues, tracking issues for growth and development for my team. And yeah, maybe we can use one of these calls in the future. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what my plans are.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
And that's it for me.
Cool. I'm not sure why the doc like keeps like tracking my changes.
Oh, okay. She didn't add you as an editor. Hold on. Let me add you. Okay. Try refreshing the doc now.
Okay. Okay. cool. Yeah, that works now. So we can talk about Erica's stuff, or at least I can just read out what she has. I may not have all the context. She's working to hand off the common screener coordination to Caitlin. So sounds like she built out like a kind of a rough handbook page that I had reviewed. And it sounds like she's just moving that process over to Caitlin so that she doesn't have to, Erica doesn't have to manage it exclusively. And then she says that we'll try to feed the pool with participants that Gina and Jackie are recruiting via TAMs and essays. And Katie and Tim might be able to use it moving forward. And she also, oh, you go ahead.
I'm just going to say that, yeah, this ties like nicely to my first agenda item. But I think in particular for Tim and Katie, it will be, I don't know if this has a deadline of when, the screener coordination would happen. So in terms of helping them out with the screener and finding participants, I think it would be interesting if we could move that forward in parallel, right, with the common screener and the coordination for Verify as a whole.
So I missed some of that. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what you were saying there so I can capture it in the doc?
Yeah, so the way I understand, and just by reading the update here in the doc, is that that they're going to try to feed right into use the participants that Gina and Jackie are recruiting to see if they fit for Tim and Katie, right? So that other teams can also leverage from this pool of participants. And my question is, when do we expect that to happen? Because to my previous point, Katie and Tim, I think they need to be prioritized, right? Because this screener is for everyone. This pool of participants is for everyone, but from the people that we already have in First Look or other places, how can we, assign them to the dependency proxy research as participants?
Gotcha. That makes sense. So I can list this as something that I tag Erica on. So she can see that later. And then it looks like she will eventually add the handbook page link. I think that's still being built out. I kind of helped with some of the early drafts that she put together on that. So that may be like in an MR stage at this point. So she may have not included it because it may not be live on the site at this point.
Yeah, it would be nice to, if you can find that merge request later, will be nice to have that here. I can also try to find it, just so we know how the conversation is moving.
Okay. And also tag her on this too. Okay, and then she also has an item about an ops product direction survey. So we have a draft of the survey, mainly keeping designers in the loop. Okay, if they don't want to comment, just, looping them in.
Right.
Cool. You were able to find the MR, so that's good. You're better at finding things through GitLab than I am.
I never delete any of my emails, so I just go in my inbox and I search for something.
Nice. Cool. So any other comments or questions about what Erica has under project coordination?
No, I think in terms of, well, oh, there she is. Great, perfect timing.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I worked a little late and then I was like, I have like 2 hours. I'm so excited. So time learned about time. I don't even know. I'm looking at the calendar now. So I'm so sorry. So we'll continue. I saw you in the notes and I was like, oh, cool. We're just pre-preparing.
Well, we've been recording this as well, so
Okay.
I'll like upload the recording to the thread, so no worries.
Okay.
So we had some like questions about some of the stuff. We're kind of in the project coordination steps.
Okay.
So Hayana had just found the MR for the handbook page.
For the common screener.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
I
then
know.
there was a question on, let's see, like when we expect the like the
Yes.
research to happen.
Yes, and just like I'm like looking, yes, I was looking at the I wanted to tell you that like the first thing that I noticed when I came on is everyone was like, help me with this recruitment issue. Look at my screener. So I was like, okay, the first way I can add value is just to help with this process. Like something we need help on this, like typical user research, right? Like they're telling me this, so they need that. So we have the pilot kind of done, and we're trying to wrap it up. And I think what we've proven is that we can be pooling the common recruit, right? And we have a couple other lessons. Like I think we need to have a separate recruit for enterprise. It doesn't work. So I'm just working to like codify that in a way that's not overwhelming with an update. But also we didn't get the common screener as like a silver project prioritized in my prioritization issue. So I need to like take less of an instrumental role, but I think we have this need. So there we are in terms of the recap. I need to just start working with Caitlin to figure it out and how she can work on her, like fit it into her current processes. It's a little bit like a revolution. So that's why we kind of started small. I think we're in a good position though now because we have a lot of the systems set up. What it will mean is that we'll keep that participant pool for like the quarter. And we need to do that because we have to like feed them back into our systems because we have like contact rules. We have to like track where they're participating. For example, if they participate too much, we might have to consider them an employee. So there's just all these like logistical things, but we've really solved for that with this common screener approach. So our team kind of has right now, and our team has right now this set up for us. So we have like a head start, but we have set it up such that it's for problem validation and it's an hour long. And we're kind of just waiting on the higher priority projects to like select and schedule those participants. And I think once we know their needs are met, we can then maybe open it up to solution validation as long as it would be the same format, because that's how we set it up. And then I think we can do a retro soon. I'll do the summary and then we can do a retro and we can figure out like how we want to move it forward. But I know that Gina and Jackie are setting up this project. It's more like a bronze project where I'm helping with, but they are wanting to like get from TAMs and essays. They want to fill up the participant pool. So we're going to try to bring those people into the fold too, as a way of like naturally feeding the pool. And then that's helpful for Caitlin because once a quarter it'll feed back. So I think we're like closer than we might think because we have it kind of set up. But I think it would take like, I think it will take like 6 months to like flatten out in a way that like is smoother for all types of studies. But
Yeah. Thanks for the update, Erica. And that's we kind of touched base on that. So it's good that you also provide more context there. And one of my agenda points, like although in the beginning was also recruiting, but for package, right? I think for the dependency proxy problem validation research, that they're still having challenges, interviewing the right people. So they share with me that recently there was the one participant that didn't speak English, or someone that doesn't has experience with the tool, or doesn't really meet the profile. So to your point, that's something Will and I already discussed. That awesome. We love the common shared screener, but what the way I understood is that we want to get that pool of people, right, from not Valerie, Jackie and Gina, and feed into the common screener. And my request is that while that happens in parallel, that with Katie, you can also look into finding the right people for dependency proxy. So maybe there are a couple of people coming from Jackie and Gina's research that will meet the profile, but that, yeah, the dependency proxy screening can be prioritized, and that we can help them move forward. Because I know that you and Caitlin have already been doing that, but from what I learned from Katie is that, yeah, it's still not meeting all the criteria. So I think it's really about, those participants. But you can align with Katie and with Tim that to learn more.
We were able to give her some, which I felt was a victory. So yeah, I think she just should. I'll work with her, but I think the way to do it right now is to just ping me in that README file and let me know. Like, we want to track why they're not usable if they're coming from that recruitment screener, because then we can, like, the benefit of that is we can like make little notes in Qualtrics and be like, language barrier. So at least the next person will know that that's, but yes, that's sad. But so I'll loop back with her. I'm kind of waiting for the pool to fill up. Wasn't sure if there was like a demand. And then we did a social media push that was branded to see how that went, and it wasn't, so we waited to feed the pool to just like know what the numbers were. But anyway, I think we just did another push. So I think like by the end of the take home is by the end of the week, I'll do like another round to see if I can find more participants for more people. And I'll make sure Katie gets help.
I'm gonna link here in the doc where we discussed, so you can see my note. But that's pretty much it.
Okay.
All right, and we have a. Oh yes, I think before you join, Will asked me if I had any questions in terms of projects, and I think the tracking issues are clear to me. So, but what I want to ask is there anything that changed in terms of priority in this next week, or anything that, is going to change in the future that might not be reflected in the trackers?
Mine just was recently published, so it's like should be set, and I think we'll look at it again. I have like a retro thread, comment thread in there, and then a like put your new requests thread here in there. And I think we'll just keep it set until we do a next release, and or like lots of needs clog up. And then I built my gold project like around, like totally around the team's needs in terms of all these things that they're working on to try to like connect the dots. So, but we want to make sure, because that recruit's going to be really hard because it's particular enterprise, and James and I have been working on a study and we just can't find enterprise participants. So this is how I know that we need a different strategy. So for that work, we're setting up this case study where we'll have like, if we can get it going, we'll have recurrent meetings and then we can weave in their topics. So that I think is going to help the team like bolster us. People will see these case studies. I prototyped an issue where we'll have those profiles and summaries, and we can use like engineering and people can comment in additional follow-up questions for subsequent interviews. But the thing to make sure everyone understands and is tracking there is that they want to continue their individual problem validation studies in parallel. I guess it could be really like if they're waiting for me to deliver all of this stuff for them, it could, we just are not in a position with the recruit to do that. Once we get this like set up, and Jackie and I kind of toyed around and Lorraine and I are talking about using this as a research program. Like, so like once we get them going, then we can have that as like a kind of touch point or customer thing. We can like build in some of their questions, but it's not there yet. So those are my, and then I have the ops product directions survey. We're actually in a really good spot with that. I'm going to do like a broadcast update. Nobody needs to feel that they need to respond, but I always err on the side of like including way too much. So but we're supposed to be transparent. So I'm just still working through like how to keep everyone in the loop on not overwhelming them. So let me know. But I think Billy, this will be good, right? So now you know, like they don't need to do anything, but they have the chance to like comment on those survey questions. And then what we'll do is, because we're all set, as we're able to, I'll start doing like talk aloud protocols where people take the survey and then they're like, this is a weird question. I don't know what this means. And then we'll make like smaller calibrations. And then I'll update those. I'm going to make a separate issue for that. So we can just like work, and it will be like a instrument survey development issue. So they can attend to that, but they don't need to do anything. Okay.
Yeah, I updated my research planning issue too, and I included the link to it there. Much of it is not going to, I think, apply to your areas because I just cover so much in enablement as well. So I have like 11 different projects across like ops and enablement that have been requested. Yes, the CMS for release is one of them. And I did confirm with Daniel that that is a CMS and not a UX scorecard.
Okay, so that's good because then the CMS he can tackle with his PM. So it's one less thing in your long list of items. It's a very
Yeah,
but then yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I did get another request like this morning for like personas. So even though this one is going off there, I'll probably be adding one on there to replace it with. So, but yeah, good to know.
Personas for release?
No, I haven't really taken too much of a look at it. I think it was something requested by Victor from the configure team.
Okay. So there is a dialogue happening with like a lot of PMs where they're talking about differentiating a couple of the personas, and they're doing it like as a discussion, and I would love for us to bring empirical data. So we're in a position, but I've been waiting to like make sure, because it's like scary for me a little bit to like jump in. But I think that at KubeCon with our survey, we'll be asking, kind of building on the common screener, these job to be done questions, which is, and I pulled out, and I'm maybe going to make a merge to the handbook, but it's a change in thinking. So anyway, but I have a table for each persona and then the tasks that differentiate that persona that we can use to map who the respondents are. If we can feel that, if we go to KubeCon, that happens from the virus, and we fill that survey and we can get like 300 responses, which is kind of what we're going for, but we don't know what it will be like. We could do a factor analysis on how those tasks hang together and then have an empirical way of helping those teams understand that. Because they're right now like, well, we have a systems admin, but there's also this infrastructure operator and a platform engineer. And then like, we know that whether or not those personas are overlapping within a particular company depends on the industry vertical and like the complexity of what they're solving for. So like, are they doing machine learning? Like that requires all these different roles and more specialization. Then like how DevOps mature they are. Like, are they just starting? So then their infrastructure team is like old school and less cloud-based. Or enterprise or small medium business. So there are these like 3 factors. So we will be able to tease apart this in the common screener, I think. But I've been waiting to talk about that because it's confusing. Because like, so it's like, we have this one project, you can't take over this project, but we will have this data that we could provide later. But like that's, the data would be like, it earliest I could get it out would be June. But I think we want to think about doing that more systematically. Otherwise, we're going to keep doing these individual studies piecemeal. So that's something we can talk to Lauren about, Will. But like, know that I'm like poised and like getting ready to figure out how to introduce the construct of using those the differentiating tasks to look at overlaps in personas. And then I'm trying to come up with a plan for getting like quant data.
Yeah. So
Or we can just do individual studies like this, but it just feels inefficient. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like I've linked to the issue that was just created like not even like half a day ago.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they want to potentially like combine elements of
exactly
existing personas. So there's a merge request on that. And then there's like kind of a proposal within the issue about like different directions to take.
Okay. Yes, Daniel Mora is fantastic. So it's coming. I'm like, yay. But yes, so this is what I'm tracking too. But I think it's large enough in scope that it would be a larger project and we would want big quant. Otherwise, we're all going to do independent studies on this. And then it's going to depend on all those different factors. And it's going to be really confusing that we're getting different findings.
Mm-hmm.
But so we can talk with Lauren about, or you could just drive that. But I think we want to think about a systematic approach. And I think we do have this KubeCon data that we could leverage, but we'll have to wait for it. But it's the perfect thing because KubeCon is where we'll have those personas gathering.
Okay. So outside of this issue, it sounds like there's other persona work that's happening. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like I tend to build into projects like kind of secondary goals that I don't lead with, but that I can produce on later. So that's like part of my hesitancy in bringing it up. But we will be able to do, if we can go to KubeCon, if we can get 300 responses, we're setting up these 2 persona job to be done questions with differentiator tasks. We should be able to do a factor analysis on this data and say, yes, this infrastructure operator role and this system admin, those are the same people saying yes to those questions. Or there's different groups saying yes to those questions, that's the empirical information that they need to be like, got it, on the same page.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at the comments section. I may link or kind of tag you on it too, Erica.
Yeah.
Um,
And let me work through, because I'm just working through. So yeah, let's work on a coordinated plan. So we look really together. But I think we want to be like, first we need to introduce to them this concept of job to be done and differentiate our tasks is a way of looking at personas. Because I think a little bit we use job titles. So I think that's going to be like the first like thing to introduce, get on board with, so it might be a handbook merged there. But yes, you can, but we'll work on it. But yes, I'm like trying to work on a very quick, cogent way to frame that without then over promising or derailing the ops product direction survey for my team.
okay. I can just DM you to kind of talk through some different ideas about how to respond to this particular issue.
Yeah. And I think we just want to coordinate with Lauren so we can then say like, because what we could do is be able to say we may be in a position to deliver on this in Q probably 3. Well,
Okay.
at the end of Q2, maybe.
Okay.
I have to drop. I have to prepare for another call. But
Oh, I'm so sorry about my time clock thing. It's so ironic because I was like, I've got like an hour.
And I was like, 6:30 for her. Let's just start it. Let's just start it.
Thank you.
I think she will leave. No, don't worry. Maybe you can also, I was telling this to Will, I'm going back to Europe next week. So I'll probably have to adjust this call anyways, because yeah, I'll be 4 hours ahead. So
Okay.
don't worry, we'll look for another
Okay.
time.
I have my childcare drop-off times like plugged in there. Like no one can do anything then. But besides that, I can really be pretty flexible. But thank you for this meeting. I was only here for a section of it, but I feel like this is fantastic. I feel very aligned.
And we already have this schedule, right? As recurring calls. Okay, every 2 weeks. Okay, awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll see you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Do you want me